Alright, so I'm a bit late, but I still want to talk smack about the new Skate game, even though there's 1,000 videos and it's like beating a dead horse at this point. But as many other creators have mentioned, the Skate franchise was something that I dearly enjoyed when the original games were coming out, and I want to give my 2 cents on how I feel about the game. Spoilers, I think it's a fucking mess. So now that it's out and got the community pretty divided, I thought it would be funny to go back to the beginning of this train wreck and analyze what's happened until the current Season 1 state, and talk about what's got people tilted. Let's get started. In 2007, EA Black Box released their new series Skate, a more grounded and realistic take to skateboarding video games, with a unique flick-it system that had tricks mapped to specific joystick patterns. The new system came with a larger learning curve, but felt extremely rewarding when you got it locked down. The games also featured a simple story mode, where the player goes around the city doing trick challenges, unlocking real skate cosmetics for both your character and the deck, and meeting cameo pro skaters that are icons to the core skateboarding community, such as P-Rod, Chris Cole, Terry Kennedy, and Rob Dyrdek. The games are fresh, fun, and interesting for both gamers and skaters. Black Box released 3 main titles. Technically 4, but we don't talk about that one. Skate 1, the original. It's clunky as f***, but revolutionary in the fact that it completely strayed away from the Tony Hawk style that dominated the video game skateboarding industry for nearly a decade. Skate 2, the fan favorite. Kinda. A more serious tone where an evil corporation, Mongo Corp, took over the city and made skateboarding illegal. A direct call to the real-life issues that skaters deal with, such as cops and skate block spots. Skate 3, the problem child. Also kinda. The opposite of the first 2 games, the character is now in skate paradise. The game had a brighter and goofier tone, and had much more unrealistic spots. Not saying that the first games didn't have any unrealistic spots, but Skate 3 turned it up to 11. Now, unlike the modern bullshit of online gaming, Skate 1 through 3 had fully playable offline modes, and Skate 3 began gaining traction again a few years after its release. I'm not sure exactly the timeline, but if I'm going to make an educated guess, it was probably PewDiePie that really resurged the game's popularity in 2014. Doing a bunch of antics using the game's goofy mechanics. After that, in 2016, Skate 3's online servers were shut down, but it was able to maintain a cult popularity through troglodyte streamers, abusing speed glitches to do challenges that were impossible if you played the game normally. And this is where it began. I'm going to break this video down into 2 main sections. The first being a retrospective look on the development team's posts and updates during the 5 years before its release. Of course the game is already out, but I'm going to try to avoid talking about the game itself to focus on what these guys were talking about to demonstrate that this game had no hope from pretty much the beginning. The second part being, now that the game is released, we'll look back again at the posts and updates to highlight points where they misled us and even straight up lied to us. However, there is going to be some speculation from me starting from here because we don't have the full details of what happened at headquarters. So, starting where I left off between 2016 and 2020, the Trogs got popular playing the game with their bullshit glitchy exploits, and as a result of that, Skate 3's servers were booted back up and copies of the game were printed again. At this point, I'm already thinking that the devs are working in the background trying to convince EA that a new Skate game should be made. Then, in 2020, it happened. They announced that they were making a new Skate game.
We're back! We're doing it! Skate's happening, we're rolling!
Everyone was hyped. I was pretty hyped myself, honestly. But in hindsight, I think this was already their first critical mistake. They announced that the game got greenlit for production, explicitly saying that literally nothing had been done yet.
It is really early.
This is just the beginning.
This is a problem because game development is a long and difficult process, and gamers in general are impatient. So them announcing that a new game is approved already started the timer. A more strategic approach would have been to stay silent for a couple years, to comfortably work on major structures and mechanics of the game, without pressure of the growing impatience of the community. Then, by the time they announce the game, they have plenty of time to work on accessories and cleaning up the glitches. Now, there is speculation here because the question becomes, was it the devs' fault or was it the higher-ups' fault? Remember that we're dealing with EA and their greedy corporate practices. Me personally, I think it's a bit of both. I think the devs were genuinely excited that the new game got greenlit, and EA was ready to try to build hype so they could probably do something later to shaft us. It took them about a year to release the following video that showed essentially nothing. This video was such misleading garbage. It showed streamers and random people over-enthusiastically reacting to something, but they refused to show us, the audience, what these assholes were watching. The video in itself is a contradiction. They claim that they're still way too early in the process to show us anything notable.
The truth is, it's early. We're still working on it.
You're joking.
Yet they give us a montage of people freaking out
Sick. You guys are in the f***ing future.
over what I could only assume are these stick models doing tray flips and big spins. One guy said that there's a beautiful open world.
It just looks beautiful. This whole
Playing
open
online
world.
sessions.
What made this so special? And if it was so special, why didn't they show us? One of these guys said it reminded him of Skate 2.
It reminds me of Skate 2.
What the fuck was he watching? Considering what the game looks like now, he's either stupid or they actually just showed him clips of Skate 2. Besides the fact that this video is just a straight up lie just to gain hype, my main issue is that they said that they're listening to the fans. Unfortunately, I think they read the room wrong. I don't see skaters or even normal people. I only see streamers and for some reason Atiba. He's not even technically a skater, he's a skate photographer. The problem with this is that streamers don't represent the majority of the fan base. They represent a small, niche part of the community that enjoys watching these people spend hours attempting to do glitch challenges rather than enjoy what made the game originally fun.
Combined, I probably spent 8 to 9 hours just trying this. It feels weird.
You're not going to get a good representation of what the larger community wants. Imagine if Nintendo made a brand new 3D Mario, but they consulted the Super Mario 64 speedrunners, and suddenly they make a game that functions like shit because they thought everybody wants to do backwards long jumps that fly you into another dimension. It's not what we want. Skate 3 has fun glitches and stupid antics, but those were byproducts of the game, not the intention of the game. They took another year to release a second video showing actual gameplay. This video was actually pretty good. They're still working on it, but they actually showed gameplay with naked models and physical parts of the city. The skating looks clean, you can see body motions in the skater if you land sketchy, new tech mechanics like switching tricks mid-grind, no slight to crook on a round rails bullshit, just saying, but it looks sick. This one might have been me, but this looks like they're updating and expanding the Creative Park mode. I didn't think that they are actually going to make the city look this goofy. If I knew that back then, that would have been a massive red flag. The end of the video was awesome. They showed good skating, nollie flip nose blunt, nose grind to switch 5-0, hard flip nollie inward heel. These clips were crispy. Whoever made these actually watches skate videos, you can tell. They introduced the new parkour mechanic, but they kept it in the background for the most part, so it looked like it was just an upgrade to being off-board. But they focused on the skateboarding, and the video was super hyped. It had my hopes up, but only for a very short time because 1 month later, they dropped the bomb that essentially nuked me and a bunch of people's faith for this game. Welcome to the boardroom, a nice little conference room / recording booth full of a bunch of skate merch. Here the lead devs record a blog to discuss major updates and news about the game. This is Cuz Perry. I hate him. We've met him before because he's been with the franchise since the first game. Now, I'm going to assume that EA killed the real Cuz Perry and replaced him with this always smiling con artist, because it's hard to imagine that this guy had anything to do with the original trilogy. Anyways, he's accompanied by the product manager, the general manager of Full Circle, the developer, and Avalanche. That streamer has said that the city looked beautiful.
It just looks beautiful. This whole
Playing
open
online
world.
sessions.
Even though he said that a year from what we saw, and what we saw didn't look that great. He's acting as a moderator who's asking obviously scripted questions. They officially announced that it's a new city named Sandbamsterdam. The general manager guy starts yapping about Full Circle in a weird way that sounds like he's trying to sell his brand. In hindsight now, it's obviously for investor support and to look good for Big Brother EA. Avalanche reads the script and asks a question about Skate 4.
So, Skate 4. Nope.
It wasn't even a question. He just said Skate 4. And in comes Cuz Perry ready for the question because he knew that this was the bombshell that was going to piss everybody off. This is where they claim that Skate 4 is actually going to be called Skate, period, because they do not plan on making any more Skate games. This is the only one that they plan to continually update with new gameplay and seasonal updates.
This isn't a sequel. It's not a remake. It's not a reboot, a prequel. It's not any of that. It's not a remake, a remaster, whatever Re can do. This is it. It's Skate.
Our vision was not a game that you play through and beat, but that will be actively supporting Skate with new gameplay elements and tweaks, new content releases and events, and lots of seasonal drops.
Avalanche makes a face that looks like he might have figured out what they were talking about. Then, they finally say it. It's going to be a cross-platform free-to-play. Then, they give us a bunch of BS excuses as to why they made this decision. Like they did it as a courtesy to us, because people couldn't afford the originals.
We wanted to remove as many barriers to entry as possible.
Or he was on PlayStation, they were on Xbox,
and they emphasize cross-platform play, as if making free-to-play makes a difference in cross-platform.
Skate will be full cross-play and cross-progression. Skate will be full cross-play and cross-progression.
They also kept saying that they're trying to bring as much people as they can and show them what the skateboarding culture is.
We want the whole world to fall in love with what we love, skateboarding, the culture, and the game.
They confidently claim that they're going to have microtransactions.
Will there be microtransactions in the game?
Yes.
And try to alleviate the news by saying that they have some hard rules. Number 1, no pay to win. Dude, of course you're not going to have pay to win. It's a fucking skate game. How the hell are you going to have to pay to win in skate? Number 2, no locked areas. Great. Number 3, no paid loot boxes. I wonder what that means. Number 4, no paid advantages. That's the same as the pay to win one. What advantages can you pay for in skate? These justifications make no sense. And looking at the comments of the time, nobody was buying it. They bring 3 more people in and they're also spitting more nonsense in our face. This girl's talking about how happy she is to bring diversity of the skateboarding community into the game, which I don't know what exactly she means by that, but in my experience, diversity in corporate lingo means how do we make more money off as much people as we possibly can. These 2 guys are actually veterans of the old game, so they actually talk about some interesting points, like they're working on smoothing out power slides. Episode 2 honestly wasn't that bad. They mostly talked about how they're in fact building the game from the ground up with a new engine and what stuff they want to bring in. However, in watching all these, I started noticing that these people would talk in ways that would sound like they know about skateboarding to try to convince the masses that the dev team actually knows about skateboarding culture. But it doesn't seem authentic. For the most part, it always sounds like it's book smart, like they read about skateboarding and not actually participated in the sport or the community. My favorite is this lady that commented on how skaters see architecture, and people ate that shit up.
Skateboarders are probably appreciate details of architecture more than the average people.
I mean, like, kinda, yeah. There is a neuron that fires in a skater's brain when you see a skatable spot, but honestly, it boils down to clean run-up, spot, clean runaway. It's not that deep. Only when you get to a certain level do you start thinking about the technicalities of more difficult spots, like Carlsbad for example. Cuz emphasize no paid loot boxes.
Skate will not have paid loot boxes.
They start talking about the city being ever expanding, that they're breaking their own rules, city representing the community.
I have some friends who don't skate in real life but really interested in skates. They ask me, can I still play skate without knowing skateboarding in real life? The answer is yes.
Literally no fucking person who plays games asks that. What type of question is that? They start mentioning some challenges which I guess are going to be the meat of the gameplay.
These are short solo experiences, but unlike previous challenges, these rotate in and out periodically.
The concept we are testing. These are dynamic events around the city that are all about bringing people together. They are not super long and they are not super hard.
They discuss flumping, which is the dumbest name they could give for the parkour mechanic.
Flumping is our name for all of the new off-board gameplay that we have. It's flicking, it's jumping, thus flumping.
Which lines up because around episode 3, you really start seeing the transition into more goofy parkour nonsense than actual skateboarding. They talk about how the Hall of Meat and Own the Spot are still there, and they're inspiring new challenges like climbing challenges and tag.
Some people are running on walls, some people are climbing, some people are skating.
Board things like big games of tag across the like climbing challenges, which are all about using verticality and the density of the city.
Which don't sound fun. It's a skateboarding game. Why is there so much focus on being off your board? They talk about owning, crushing, and shutting down a challenge, because the old kill a spot isn't child friendly. Then to end it off, they talk about modifiers to challenges, which actually sounds like a cool, unique idea. Holy shit, episode 4 had me shell-shocked. It was such a good video. If I watched this one when it first came out, I would have had hope.
Nope.
Darren Chung, one of the 2 guys saying anything interesting in episode 1, makes a comeback. In this video, he interviews real people with real passion for making a good game. They're talking about the unique mechanics, boned ollies, wallies, grind transitions, cleaning up the transition skating, and it doesn't feel like scripted bullshit.
About that DNA, and also that we're building in these new mechanics like wallies and slappies and bone dollies, all this stuff, right, that represent more of what modern skating is all about and that we haven't really seen in skateboarding games before.
They're asked what were they most excited about, and they all named things that were cool and new to the core skate mechanics, and they even compared some of them to the old games.
So I was super excited about working on this new feature in transition skating during Creative Week.
I mean, earlier today we were playing with flip trick speed, right? And it's awesome that you can control your flip trick speed now, right? By how fast you actually flick the stick.
Yeah, that's from an animation perspective. I'm really looking forward to getting our held and late flip stuff looking good.
Look, they dropped into a mini ramp. They could actually fucking skate too. It's so shocking seeing this part of the team. You can see so clearly that this is the team that cares about the game and how the game is played. It's night and day compared to the others that all they talk about is making it appealing to people and all that bullshit. Darren Chung is even wearing a sci-fi fantasy hoodie. That's not only a real brand, but it's a modern brand that's cool. Compare that to Cuz Perry, who for the most part is only seen wearing merchandise for the game. I'm starting to get a picture in my head that there's heroes and villains to this story. Playtests kept coming through the months. Darren and Cuz did a Q&A that didn't really say anything. Darren tries to answer questions, but mostly says that they're still working on it. Cuz gives answers that are just fucking stupid.
Keep cooking. I will wait as long as needed. This is one game I have patience for. It's looking good.
Cooking. I like that. That's a Russell.
From me at the Cuz pile.
That's the Russell Wilson of cards.
Fuck that name!
Darren immediately disappoints me in this one. This is the most bullshit boardroom since the first one. They go back to talking about inclusivity, bringing as much people in.
Any of those expressions can wear anything in the wardrobe. There's no exclusivity between something that is perhaps a masculine item or a feminine item or...
And more of the corporate greed slop. First guy to talk says that they're taking inspiration from stylizations from the first game. The girl in the middle talks about loving to dress up her character and how having San Van grip tape makes her feel more immersed in the city.
And for the board, I picked this grip tape that has a San Van text on it. So I think it really offers me a sense of belonging to this virtual city of San Van.
Which, come on, man. What the hell are you talking about? She did mention she likes customizing the deck, which to be fair is essential to the game, although she doesn't talk at all about her experience actually playing it. Bootleg Eagle Raptor talks about the real-world brands being popular.
World brands are super popular. That's unsurprising.
He goes into a lot of detail about the skeleton costume for some reason.
Painted skeleton bones onto it. We've set it up as one of the things that's harder to get. Wow!
And how players won't be left out of the customization due to the grindy nature that the game's gonna be. They start talking about bringing real skateboarding brands in the game. For shoes, they mention Vans.
The one that we're really focusing on right now is Vans. Van Doren Rubber Company. They've been around forever. They're part of the fabric of skateboard history.
Couldn't be Etnies or something, could it? Dude, nowadays, where skateboarding culture is overrun by corporations, I would have taken Nike SB or even New Balance, man. For skateboards, they talk about chocolate and girl, which are must-haves in the game for sure, but it shows how out of touch these people are, and again, just book smart. This might be a hot take, but for me, Girl and Chocolate are just legacy brands at this point. They've been irrelevant for a while. The teams aren't iconic anymore, and honestly, they're being hard carried by a handful of skaters, like Griffin Gass and Stevie Perez. We've already been waiting for 4 years for this game, and you could tell in the comments of this video that the fan base has already lost their patience, and started calling them out on some of the crap that they've been giving us. Killed the franchise, not my skate. We were better off not knowing the game was being made because 4 years of nothing is frustrating. Yo, that skeleton suit sucks so much, holy cow. Anyways, this is the end of the boardrooms. In the meantime, between this point and the release of the game, they started releasing random videos to keep hype up. They made a goofy ad about Mongo Court, the tyrannical anti-skateboarding company from Skate 2, featuring Tim Robinson for some reason. Also, someone snitched about Mongo and got the word banned, so now it's just called M-Corp. I don't know if this post was supposed to be ironic or not, but everybody was joking that this is just basically EA headquarters. I wouldn't doubt it. They release a development update that's basically rehashing everything that happened in the past 4 years. The community is not happy. Basically, all the comments are asking for story mode, offline mode, and an assortment of things that aren't ever showed. We're in year 5, and they give us another comment reading with Darren and Cuz. The last one, Darren tried to answer some real questions, but couldn't say much because they were too early. This one, they cherry-picked questions that actually had zero value to anybody watching.
Will there be more black hairstyle customization options?
You have everything.
Will early access be available on PC and consoles?
Yes. Do you guys even play the game? Who's better?
It's obvious that the negative feedback was overwhelming at this point, so they tried to cover it up by picking questions that weren't any form of confrontational. They showed clips that they recorded of themselves playing. Cuz only had one trick and he couldn't even name it.
Now, kick flip,
Was it
front
kick
side?
flip or heel flip?
Doesn't matter, it's a flippy thing, right?
This is the lead creative writer, fellas. It was a frontside 360 flip, by the way. He just hit the wall by accident, so it looked weird. Darren, on the other hand, shows his clips, and they seem pretty normal. I can't say much about him.
Oh, skate through Tommy, thread the needle time.
Dude, how do you know what a thread the needle is, but you can't name a trick? This shows that Cuz isn't following the culture. He's just watching the streamers. Answered a couple more useless questions, and that's the end of that video. By November 2025, the game gets an early access release trailer. It's not what people were expecting. The game has eye-burning bright colors, the city looks way too clean, and the character models have the plastic Fortnite aesthetic. It's been 5 years since the announcement of this game. The community has gone through a roller coaster of emotions, and this trailer was the straw that broke the camel's back for many. Their fears that the free-to-play microtransaction loot box skate game was actually most likely going to be shit. Me personally, the roller coaster was only one hill. I was excited when the game was announced. I gave up hope immediately when they announced free-to-play for the first boardroom. The last thing that they did before the release was that they showed a live-action trailer that people actually liked a lot. I thought it was okay, but overall it was pretty well accepted. However, now knowing how the game was actually going to look like, there are many comments complaining about the vibe of the game should reflect the vibe of this video, and we all knew that that wasn't going to happen. Okay, so the game gets launched on September 16 in its alpha stage, and it has not gone well. The Steam community reviews have it rated as mid, which for the title of a AAA company like EA is ass. The community is at each other's necks going back and forward about the goods and the bads of the game. So let's see what this game looks like compared to what these people have been promising us for the last 5 years. Let's start with the first hype trailer that they showed. Remember that guy who said that it reminds of Escape 2?
It reminds me of Skate 2.
Let me re-ask the question. What the fuck was this guy watching that he said that? How the hell does this remind you of Skate 2? The grittiest looking game in the series. The graphics, the city, the dialogue.
I think the bus driver had a support lizard.
The way the characters move. Nothing about this game looks like Skate 2. Also, let's talk about Avalanche.
It just looks beautiful. This whole open world.
This is an interesting talking point. Seeing the people in episode 4 versus everybody else, we know that there are two different visions happening in this studio. The corporate douchebags listening to the trogs, and the actual devs who have some sense of skateboarding culture and their effort to make the video game better. The look of the city reflects this very well actually. The corpos most likely insisted on putting in crap that the streamers thought were good, so you get these giant ramps and oversized spots. The devs, on the other hand, try to put some legitimate spots, which is why you'll see some normal things, and even inspirations from real spots like the Brooklyn Banks or the China Banks. These two creative differences clash with each other and create a city that's overwhelmingly filled with nonsense. It feels like they just threw assets everywhere. You think more would be better, but it ends up having the opposite effect. The clutter makes you not stay in a spot or even an area for too long. And it's worse if you're doing building jumps since you're flying miles above the city at Mach 5. The city feels abandoned. This is a result of listening to the trogs. As I said earlier, they only represent a niche part of the community. Listening to them isn't going to be worthwhile because if you notice what areas are dense with players at any given time, it's always the same 3 spots that you see in the Jesus Christ memes and the streamers going about their high-flying adventures. The game lacks interesting spots and a player base that's willing to use the city for any actual skate spots. Their plan to reach a wider audience has completely backfired. Moving on, we got Boardroom Episode 1.
Our mission is to create an authentic evolution of the skate franchise.
I don't know how you go from this to this. I don't even need to use Skate 2 as an example. How did you go from this?
Sign up. Come play.
To this. They're literally ignoring all the complaints. This video is so much worse seeing the game now. They've completely missed the mark on skate culture. They don't have any pro skaters, which is essential to skateboarding culture. I know you can't add the old ones. Seriously, you can't. P-Rod's been lobotomized. Chris Cole's facing some sketchy allegations. Tara Kennedy is in jail for straight up killing a guy. And Rob Dyrdek has dedicated his life to ruining MTV with his corny shows. But at least add some new ones. You can literally just pluck them from the Street League roster, and everyone's happy. Instead of having pros, they added these assholes that say the corniest shit.
Betting no. Low impact Manny's saved the old ACLs. Trust me, I'm old.
Hey Slappy, why the fuck do your knees hurt if Impervatech exists in this game? They literally claim that it stops people from getting hurt jumping off buildings. Also, of course everybody knows about your AI companion V, whose dialogue is worse than all three combined. But at least you could turn her off. But that also pisses me off. The fact that the game launched with an option to turn off V implies that there are people on the dev team that thought she was fucking annoying and thought it was a good idea to have that option. Who gave the final thumbs up to include this bitch? There are barely any brands that represent skate culture. I already claimed that Girl and Vans hardly pull their weight anymore. Since launch, they've only added Creature and Santa Cruz. Who did they send the survey to, Steve? What skate park did they go to that people said Santa Cruz was a cool brand nowadays? We finally found out what they meant by no paid loot boxes. They meant that there's still going to be loot boxes, but they're there to force you to grind out the game for hours to try to keep you engaged. Typical free-to-play tactic. Unfortunately, it doesn't work if all the content is ass. It's not fun or super entertaining to grind for hours to get a rare plain blue t-shirt. They instead chose to take the route of making the branded stuff payment only bundles, and they're not cheap. Not only do they have mid brands like Santa Cruz, but they're charging $10 for only 3 of the most basic looking merch they could find. Episode 2 doesn't add much. My only gripe is if they insisted on building from the ground up based on the old skate games, then why is there still shit missing? Wouldn't have it been smarter to make sure that you had all the old stuff before you begin to evolve? You guys didn't even put Games of Skate in the game. For the love of God, it's literally what the fucking franchise was named after. This guy did a video of everything missing, link below. City being ever evolving. I don't know what they mean by that. The city hasn't changed except for the community park, and everybody fucking hates those. Anytime I go to any of those areas, they're empty. The challenges aren't evolving either. People have been complaining that they're repetitive and boring. They say they're gonna break their own rules. I still don't know what that means, but if I'm gonna guess, they're trying to justify to themselves that the skydiving crap is essential to the game. The flumping sucks. The wall climbing is slow and annoying when you have to do it. It's not fun getting off your board to hold A for a fat minute just to find a mediocre spot. There's also things that I don't even know if you could do, like the Mario pole swinging. I haven't done it. I haven't seen anybody else do it. It's either not in the game, or it's a useless mechanic that nobody uses. And then last but not least, they're exaggerating what's in the game. No Hall of Meat, it's been reduced to the boring stunt challenges where you have to repeatedly jump off buildings and hit something. And there are no modifiers, which was the coolest thing that they mentioned in the third video. The only thing that's technically there is the own the spot challenges, but even those feel annoying. 10 grind? Are you fucking kidding me? The only challenge that I think is legitimately fun is the one where my brothers in arms shit all over the place and you have to clean it up. I still stand by this episode being the best one even after the game came out. The main game mechanics minus the crap that's still missing is actually well developed. I like that they made it smoother in certain areas, like the mechanic where it reverts a little bit if you land a bit sketchy. The slappies are cool even though I forget that they exist half the time, and so are the grind reverts and wallies. Some stuff that they said is jack, like the smoother transition skating, but overall they gave us mostly what they promised us. Geez, this one is bad. Alright, they straight up lied to us about taking inspiration from the aesthetic of the first 2 games. They obviously were looking at some other games. Prior to the release of the game, it might have sounded like they were trying to stay core to the franchise, you know, if you're coping as hard as possible. But seeing the Fortnite graphics, we can now see that it really was just corporate greed slop. Same shit as Boardroom Episode 1. How did this evolve to this, without the obvious answer of pure greed? Guy talks about brand logos, which barely exist in the game. They go on and on about representing culture, which they just got so far off.
You know, one of the big things that inspired us was looking at skateboarding, at skateboard culture.
Progression, accessibility, and inclusivity are definitely the core of skate culture.
The representation of what the culture is today.
Again, look at all the top skaters right now, even the female ones. Nothing in this game has the cultural representation of either the male or female skaters that are spearheading modern skateboarding.
Obviously, the branded stuff, the things from our real world brands are super popular. That's unsurprising.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. Maybe you should have put a bunch of those at launch. Everything they've added so far that's unique sucks. The Grim Reaper suit is mid. The bird costume is racist. I'm taking full offense to that. The shitty skeleton outfit, I have yet to see anybody wearing it. And that's actually one of the free ones. Nobody's showing it off. Not even the streamers that have already unlocked everything.
I also think it's a good representation of the way that we want to approach that kind of clothing option.
There you have it, folks. Now we know who's to blame for the $35 Isaac Clarke skin that's made out of garbage, cardboard, and duct tape. I don't know how this clicked in their head that these ugly costumes were cool. They have a Meatman one too. Meatman and Dem Bones were funny in Skate 3 because they were literally a skeleton and a 6-foot ribeye. These suits look so dumb. They should have made the goofy models like in Skate 3 and way more people would have bought it. Well, there you have it. 5 years worth of lies, straight up greed, and blatant and most likely purposeful misunderstandings of both skateboarding culture and what gamers want. It definitely leaves a sour taste analyzing the bullshit they were saying, and then reanalyzing it, seeing that it's worse than we could have expected. Currently the game's in alpha, which in my opinion was a terrible move. AAA titles shouldn't be releasing games in alpha because it sets a second clock for people's patience. You don't get Silksong amounts of time because you aren't a 3-person team. Being a large team under a massive corporation like EA gives you even less leeway because people assume you have the money and manpower to put out quality product in short amounts of time. If you don't do that, people are going to get bored or mad and then leave. We're already seeing that happen. Every week, Skate has a new low in player count, and it's only going to get worse at the rate that they're going. People argue since it's an alpha that the game will be updated, but they're doing it at a snail's pace and making decisions that are aggravating the player base. The highlight of the Season 1 Battle Pass was having your hat backwards, and you could only get them in either black or white. The challenges aren't being updated. People are complaining that they're repetitive, and in the most recent patch they made the loot boxes even grindier. Nobody is skating in the community parks. The Skate-O-Ween added a 4th fucking currency. The roadmap is ridiculously underwhelming. I don't know how they expect to keep engagement. Do you really think that in 2026, adding dark slides is going to make people want to come back and buy shit? The devs are in a position where they don't know who to listen to. They're even alienating the trogs by removing some of their favorite glitches and forcing them to do the annoying parkour to get to places. So they're getting backlash from both ends now. They've put themselves in a terrible situation where they're losing players fast and probably not making a lot of money. This is speculation, but I'm assuming that Skate was taking way too long to make, and EA forced them to put this obviously far from finished trash to start capitalizing and making some money back from the 5 years of development and marketing. EA hasn't released how much it cost to make this game so far, but let's make an estimate, and I'm gonna lowball the hell out of it to prove a point. Let's say Full Circle is a team of 30 people, which is the amount of an indie company. And let's say they're getting paid around $50,000 each per year, which there's no way EA pays that little. Over a 5-year period, that's $7.5 million and counting. That's a decent amount of money that a company like EA, whose equity and debt just got bought out by Saudi Arabia and Jared Kushner, would probably want to see back soon, especially if they're going to keep the servers live and running properly. It lines up with why Isaac Clarke costs $35 and everything else in the store is expensive, even by free-to-play standards. EA is itching to get their money back, and at this rate, it feels that they might pull the plug at any moment. I don't want to go as far to say as that I hope the game dies, because the core gameplay is actually decent, and a good amount of people do like it. But honestly, if, and most likely when, the game dies, I'm not going to be sad about it. I'm tired of AAA companies taking old beloved titles, hyping up the player base with a new game, and making slop for a quick buck. It feels like the video game equivalent of a crypto rug pull. This game is a reminder that the giant corporations in the business are no longer game companies. They're just greedy executives looking to make the quickest, easiest dollar out of the fan base. Either that, or they're just using the failure of the franchise as a tax write-off. The way that they handled this game is laughable. It shows that they don't even have a good understanding of the video game industry as a whole. They said, hey, Fortnite rakes in money. Make the game like Fortnite. But they probably didn't even think that the game development, the timing, the strategy, and honestly the luck that initially shot Fortnite past PUBG into its initial success. It's not a good strategy just to copy another game's success, especially when they said it themselves, free-to-plays are an extremely tricky market.
Which means that there will be microtransactions. And we know that this is a sensitive subject.
If I'm going to recommend anything out of this, it's to support indie and AA developers. We're getting games like Silksong and Expedition 33 from them. These are companies that are still doing it for the passion and a vision rather than the need to satisfy investors and CEOs. Hey, even if you have an itch for a skateboarding game, there's one coming out called Skate Story that seems pretty fun and interesting. Anyways, that's the end of the video. I hope you all enjoyed it. I'm going back to talk shit about YouTube chefs. See ya.